Hi, I'm Richard Hurtley. I am the Managing Director of Rich Insights. We're a marketplace growth agency that work with clients globally in the e-commerce sector. I've worked with Pioneers for about 4 years now, I think, and us as a business use them for our international transfers, and a lot of our clients do for both the lending side as well as the international transfers that they require to manage their multiple different countries that they work with. I think I met Pioneer through an e-commerce event, probably about 5 years ago, it's been great to be working with them for so long. In terms of professional advice, I mean, I was thinking long and hard about this because there's a lot of lessons that probably I'm still learning, but one of the key ones that I think is really one I've been dwelling on a bit is around being authentic. So I think it's very easy as humans to create like false narratives around situations, around us and with others, around things that are important to us. And I think it's very important as businesses so driven by trust globally that you're honest with both yourself and others around things. And you don't kind of package things up so much that it sort of loses the reality. So I think being authentic is really key. And I just remember when I started out in my career, I tried to be sort of a very professional person. I always started off when I was 21 with my own business, and I've always sort of worked in a business that I've founded or co-founded. I think sometimes you can like lose a bit of your identity if you're kind of in that process, because obviously business is such an important stakeholder in your life. And I think it's important to allow yourself to be you and to be human, to be honest. And I think particularly over lockdown, I think a lot of people have struggled with that. Sort of that in the past, you'd have your professional life and your home life. I think now they're kind of entwining and you're just you. And I think that's actually really great. It's good that we can be honest with each other. It's good that we can be in a position that we're kind of becoming kind of that the fusion of those two parts of our life. And I think it's also really important in business and in trying to break down barriers and relate to people. And I think there's something to be celebrated in the fact that we are human and that we do make mistakes, and perfection is not always what we should be aiming for. Sometimes actually imperfection is far more charming. So yeah, I think that's just something I've been reflecting on as something that's important, and definitely a lesson. And I think authenticity is the sort of thing that you'll look back on in your life and be glad that you had a narrative of, I think, if that's something that you can profess to. So definitely an aspiration, something that I think should be something that we're all aiming for, but sometimes easier said than done. But that's something that I think is worth sharing. In terms of success, for me personally, having this sort of work-life balance piece has been a challenge at times. And I think for me, having a much better relationship between family, work, fitness, things I want to do basically in my life that are important to me, as well as people who are important to me and things that are important to me, it is kind of really, really key. So I think for me, having the balance between those things is kind of really going to determine success for me. It's not about money, that obviously helps with some elements of it, but it's about actually the enabling elements for that, and flexibility is a big part of that for me. In terms of motivation, I feel like I'm quite motivated by other people, which is quite annoying sometimes, but I definitely sometimes need sort of approval or feel like that's something that is a driver for me. So having it from my family or from people I respect definitely helps motivate me. Something that I want to kind of prove that I'm good at things for their benefit, I think is definitely another component. In terms of sort of industry threats, obviously we work in the third-party e-commerce space. I think a lot of brands struggle to understand the importance of sites like Amazon, like eBay, like Zalando, and like a lot of others. And I think that's something that is a real challenge. But I think businesses need to understand the role it plays and the fact that buyers are increasingly choosing to buy in this way. So obviously it does depend to some degree on category and positioning, but I think it is a really important channel to understand. And taking the time to do so, I think, is really important. And I think if businesses don't, they're going to become decreasingly relevant, and unfortunately, they're going to lose market share. So helping people understand the influence and the importance of these channels, and maybe the role they want to play in these channels, I think, is something that we find key, as well as obviously how you can grow globally through these sorts of channels, which again is a lot of the work that we do as a business at Rich Insight. And then finally, in terms of how I try to stay resilient and motivated, I think the three things that sort of jumped out on this one are exercise. So I feel like every time I have exercise, I'm just far more effective. And there's a lot of, obviously, research to back that up. So going out for a cycle, which is my personal kind of preference. Some people go for a run, go to the gym, whatever. But I feel like having that baked into your week is really important. And when it isn't, I always feel it. Sleep. I've got a 5-month-old at the moment, so this is quite a topical one for me. But definitely, being effective and sleep has a big correlation, and also being able to speak compos mentis on these sorts of calls. So I apologise in advance for that. I think that's really important. There's a really good book, Why We Sleep, which you may or may not have read, but I'd really recommend it if you haven't. It's a bit scary for those that are going through something similar to me. But sleep is a really important kind of thing we need to take advantage of where we can. And if you're in a position where you can, then definitely building that into your day and not losing sleep where you don't need to is absolutely integral, I think, to being effective at work. And the final thing is really around reflection. I think we don't reflect enough. There's a lot to be said for making space for yourself to think about things, to process things, to get perspective. And I think we are not very good at doing that generally. And I'm definitely not very good at doing that. So I've actually tried to kind of carve a day out every 2 weeks where I'm actually physically taking myself away to a place on my own where I can actually have some deep work and actually think about things in a bit more detail. And I think those sorts of activities, being quite rigid on that and making them kind of almost like a blocked out event, is really important to give you that space to sort of perspective. So just some thoughts from me. Hopefully that's useful. Thank you very much.